on. Good afternoon. Thank you again for joining us. We're here at the Emergency Operations Center for the City of Calgary, here with an update on the 16th Avenue water main break. Today you'll be hearing from Mayor Jyoti Gondek, SEMA Chief Sue Henry, Water Services Director Nancy Mackay. Then we'll move on to hearing from Alberta Health Services Dr. Franco Rizzuti, and we'll hear from Calgary Fire Department Chief Steve Dongworth. We'll listen to their updates and we'll take your questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm sure that by now you've heard that the community of Bowness has had its boil water advisory lifted yesterday evening. Our water teams were able to be innovative and find a way to flow water to Bowness, making people's lives a little bit easier in that community. And that is much needed news. Now, I do need to stress this does not mean that things are back to normal. In fact, the feeder main is not fixed yet. It is still under repair. And that means we are all still under outdoor water restrictions as well as a fire ban. You and I need to keep up the good water saving practices that we have been using. And there's a lot of creativity that's been shared. People have talked about using a bucket in the shower to catch excess water to then water your plants, or using a lot of dry shampoo on the days you're skipping a shower. And some of you have even resorted to eating over the sink or straight out of a container to cut down on the dishes. You have been doing an exceptional job at reducing your water consumption. I can tell you that each day, your efforts have managed to save us the equivalent of about 50 Olympic-sized swimming pools full of water. And we're going to need to keep doing this for the coming days. We will receive a bit more detail from Director Mackay in a few minutes about what that timeline looks like and the fact that this will take more days. But the biggest thing to remember here is that time is something we need to ensure that our water supply remains safe and that it comes back consistently. I know it's tough to watch the clothes pile up, and it's tough to not be able to soak in the tub or get to those fresh plantings and provide them with water, but it's critical. You and I, and all the people and pets and plants that we love, we need water to survive. It is absolutely our source of life. And that's worth all of the sacrifices that I know all of you have been making. Everything you're doing matters for all of us. And yes, we will have a few more days of cutting our water consumption, but as a result, we will make sure that we have a clean and safe water supply into the future. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Calgary Emergency Management Agency Chief Sue Henry.
Thank you, Mayor. We are currently in our 6th day of water restrictions, and Calgarians continue to show their resilience and support for limiting water use. Thank you for holding steady and supporting your neighbours in the communities and all across the city. Based on the work underway by crews, which you'll hear more about from Director Mackay, we expect the current water restrictions to remain in place through to and into next week. As I've mentioned before, we are not out of the woods yet, and we ask you to be comfortable making water conservation a part of your daily routine as crews continue to repair the pipe and get the system back online. Your efforts have kept Calgary's water use to a level that will keep Calgary's water flowing to all homes and buildings in our city. Regarding calls coming into 311, there have been 10,254 more calls into 311 over the last 6 days versus the same period of time in 2023. While most Calgarians are doing their best and following water restrictions, we have been attending to some people who have not. Since June 6th, we've dealt with a number of incidences of people misusing water. We've issued 993 notices and resolved 934 calls. Of those resolved, we've had 249 written warnings, 321 verbal warnings, and we have issued the same one ticket. While there is room for improvement, we're encouraged by the far greater number of Calgarians that are complying with the water restrictions, especially during Calgary's short growing season. We're seeing rain forecasted for this weekend, which will help our gardens and our yards. In addition to the water restrictions, since the fire ban was in place last week, through our bylaw officers, we've issued 71 notices for active fire pits. Of those, 58 of those tickets have been resolved, or 58 of those cases. We've issued 9 written warnings and 28 verbal warnings as we continue to take an educational approach. We have not issued any tickets for fire pits at this point in time. And we'd like to remind Calgarians that gas and propane fire pits are not allowed to be used during the fire ban. Well, those of you have heard our public updates, you've also heard some of our water saving tips, and they're always a great reminder as we're looking to conserve water. In addition to shortening showers, turning off taps, washing full loads of dishes and clothes, and fixing our leaks, a real-life example of reusing water came in this morning from Bob and Maria in Northeast Calgary, who reached out to us. They keep containers handy, whether a bucket or an empty laundry detergent container, in every bathroom of their house. They use this container to collect the initial flow of cold water out of their taps until it warms before taking a shower, washing their hands, or brushing their teeth. Over the course of the day, they've been very surprised with the amount of water collected, and they use it for other purposes, such as flushing toilets, watering plants, and rinsing dishes. This is a great example of how to save water and how to support the effort across the entire city. For our businesses who can limit their water use, please continue your efforts. A business accounts for 35% of Calgary's water, and our efforts to date have contributed to successful water conservation efforts. We also want to recognize the businesses and residents in Airdrie, Chestermere, and Strathmore who use Calgary's treated water and have been reducing their consumption. If you've tried to move through the area where crews are working, you know it can be slow going as you are detoured around the area. For those of you that are moving through the area, please find another route or make time for that delay in your travels. For those of you traveling to the area, please continue to do so. The businesses in Bowness and Montgomery rely on your patronage. They're absolutely open for business while we continue to work to repair the main. Just leave earlier than you anticipated. Anticipate the delay the closer you get to these communities, and drive safely so that everyone, including those on the worksite, get home safely. For those families and Calgarians looking for updates to the city's recreation facilities, effective today, all weight rooms, fitness rooms, and non-water-based registered programs are open or will resume. Pools and showers at locations still remain closed, and all facilities will be adjusting programming to use as little water as possible. Normal hours of operation will also resume today. Please note, our colleagues in recreation and social programs are experiencing a high volume of emails due to the various service interruptions that have occurred at our facilities. Participants of any canceled programs, bookings, classes, and lessons will be notified by email and automatically refunded. This may take up to 2 weeks due to this high volume of refunds, and recreation passes will be extended based upon coming service impacts. For a more complete update on these facilities and recreation programs, please visit calgary.ca/recreation for more information, and I will now pass to Director Mackay.
Good afternoon. Once again, I would like to start by thanking all of our crews who are working around the clock to assess and repair the Bearspaw South feeder main that is broken. I'm so pleased that last night we were able to lift the boil water advisory for the community of Bowness. Shortly, my colleague from Alberta Health Services, Dr. Rizzuti, will speak to that particular part of this effort. With that, I want to thank the Bowness residents and the businesses for their patience as we worked to ensure our your water supply is safe and meets or exceeds all the regulatory parameters that are so key. I would like to acknowledge Alberta Environment and Protected Areas, in addition to Alberta Health Services, for being such great collaborators and providing the support during this response that we are doing together. However, I want to restate that we are still asking Calgarians, as well as residents and businesses of Chestermere, Airdrie, and Strathmore, to help conserve water, as the Mayor has outlined. The mandatory outdoor water restrictions remain in place, and we ask that you keep up the great work and limiting your indoor water use as much as you can. We remain completely focused on the repairs and the next steps in restoring water flow through this feeder main as soon as we can safely do so. We know that the restrictions are an inconvenience, and I want to sincerely thank everyone for their efforts. They are truly making a difference. Your patience and continued support is absolutely key. We have some footage here that shows the site, and I appreciate that everyone is anxious to understand when we'll be able to ease water restrictions. I want you to know that we're making progress. Yesterday, we were able to remove the last 2 sections of the damaged pipe. We were also able to send a robot in to assess about 300 meters of the pipe. It captured data that will help us to understand the extent of the damage. I want to clarify one point. Yesterday, we made a reference to this robot recording video. This was a misunderstanding. The robot uses high sensors to collect data that show us the integrity of the pipe. There isn't a video per se, but exceptional data that is really important for the decisions that lie ahead for us. You might be asking, what are we working on now? This afternoon, we are deploying a second robot that will travel even further in the pipe in both directions to see more sections of the pipe. This will help us determine if there are any additional issues that we should be aware of. Now we have removed the damaged pipe, as you can see in the photo here. Couplers or connectors for the new pipe are currently being installed. While this work is ongoing, we're taking the opportunity to complete additional maintenance activities on the pipe since it's currently not in use. For example, we're replacing air valves and modifying hatches to enable additional monitoring for when the pipe is back in service. This additional work is not impacting the overall timelines. We're just taking advantage of that. Right now, we've got an updated graphic that I'd like everyone to see to understand what's the next steps ahead of us and what we've completed to date, because I know many of us are anxious to hear about when we would restore the city's water supply. Now that we've received some of the new data about the status of pipe, I can provide you a bit more detail. We do not have a date for the restoration of the service. However, based on the information we have now, I expect to be able to share a closer date mid next week. Here's what happens in the meantime. We've got some steps between us now until that time. We need to install and weld the replacement pipe. That pipe is arriving this afternoon, and the installation will take about 2 days. We need to fill and flush the feeder main. This means moving all the water out of the pipe, removing any sediment that may be remaining in that newly installed pipe. This pipe is pretty large, so it will take up to 3 days to do that next step. Following that, we will ready the pipe and the city network for water to begin flowing again. That means we're going to be filling that pipe. This will take about 2 days. And like all of our operations, we're continually doing water quality testing, which will be very important at that particular stage. While this is happening, we continue to compile and analyze condition assessment information that we are gathering. Once these steps are complete, we'll be able to share timing on 2 steps: when we're able to restore the city's water supply, and phasing in water restrictions as we return service to the entire city of Calgary. We appreciate that this is longer than the minimum timelines perhaps originally understood. We are proceeding with an abundance of caution. We want to make sure that this work is done right and it's done safely. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Rizzuti, from our Medical Officer of Health from Alberta Health Services, who will speak about the boil water advisory that was lifted last night.
Thank you, Director Mackay. I'd like to first take the opportunity to talk a little bit about water quality more generally. Water quality in the City of Calgary is maintained using what we call a multi-barrier approach. This means, in collaboration, the City of Calgary with Alberta Health Services and the Alberta Environment and Protective Areas work to identify policies, procedures, tools, water treatment, and distribution to make sure that we minimize risk to the public as the city provides safe drinking water. As part of this, all municipalities who provide drinking water are required to submit regular water samples. The City of Calgary provides significantly more water samples than the requirement, and the City of Calgary's water samples continue to meet and exceed all of the regulatory requirements by the province and the federal government. What this means, though, what do we look for? Well, when we're doing these water testing samples, we're looking for 4 pieces. We're one, looking at turbidity, a marker of how clear is the water. We're looking at free residual chlorine, how disinfected, that's a marker of disinfection ability. And then we're making sure that there are no bacteriological elements to it, no bacteria that could make us sick. And we look for very specific ones. These markers, as I say, in City of Calgary drinking water on a normal basis continue to meet and exceed our standards. This means you have high quality drinking water in the City of Calgary, and our drinking water is safe to consume. Now turning to the boil water advisory for the community of Bowness. The evening of June 5th, Alberta Health Services was notified of a loss of pressure to the community of Bowness. We met late that evening with the City of Calgary, our colleagues at Environment and Protected Areas, and through that meeting, we learned that the likely cause of this pressure loss was the break to this main feeder main on 16th Avenue. Out of an abundance of caution, Alberta Health Services that evening issued an immediate boil water advisory. On Friday, so fast forward a few days, June 7th, the City of Calgary was able to provide a temporary water supply to the community of Bowness. This temporary supply is coming directly from the Bearspaw Water Treatment Plant. And I want to stress this is a temporary solution. The city worked very hard to make sure that we could get water back to the community of Bowness. Since Friday, the City of Calgary, Alberta Health Services, and Environment and Protected Areas have been closely monitoring water quality and water distribution. There's been stable supply and pressure in Bowness since Friday. And since Friday, we've been able to collect 12 samples. These samples were collected on Friday, on Saturday, on Sunday. We looked at all of these indicators that I've recently spoke of, and we got the latest results from the Sunday sample late yesterday. Reviewing all of this information, all of these results, again, met or exceeded our standards. And we also learned that the water supply has been stable, as I said, since Friday. And in that interval from Friday to about late yesterday, the City of Calgary folks have determined that at least 6 times the volume that would normally be in these pipes has gone through it. All this information together, AHS yesterday lifted that boil water advisory for the community of Bowness. This rescind was effective immediately. Now, for this particular boil water advisory, we are not indicating or suggesting a flushing of lines. The reason for that is, as I've said, we've had excellent water quality. They have met or exceeded all of our standards for the last 3 days, and we have gone through at least 6 times the volume through these pipes. And so the water in the community of Bowness is safe for Bowness community members, for Calgarians to consume immediately. And with this, I will pass it over to Fire Chief Dongsworth.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. To begin, I want to thank all Calgarians for their efforts in helping to conserve water, and that's been duly recognised here today. The risk of reduced water supply is very real, especially if we're faced with fighting a large fire. The Calgary Fire Department has taken a measured and cautious approach in the advice we are offering Calgarians and in the direction we are providing businesses when it comes to fire prevention. The reason for this caution is that we want to ensure there's sufficient water to fight fires, if needed, and we certainly don't want to leave Calgarians without water if faced with a situation where we're called to battle a large fire with an abundance of water. Last week, the Calgary Fire Department imposed restrictions on construction activities, including open flames, in an effort to reduce the risk of fires that could possibly engulf large buildings as well as neighbouring ones. We know some of these restrictions had an impact on the type of work that could be carried out on construction sites and on the workers themselves. We clearly heard the concerns from industry about those impacts, and we've been working closely with the Calgary Construction Association to both clarify the direction given by the Fire Department and also to come up with solutions that support the needs of industry. Thanks to the collaborative efforts of the Fire Department and the Calgary Construction Association, as well as the efforts from Calgarians in conserving water, the Fire Department is now comfortable in permitting certain lower-risk hot works activities. Specifically, the Fire Department is now allowing roofing work that involves hot air welding and cold processes roofing, including new construction projects, provided that a fire watch is maintained for 60 minutes post-application and is followed by an inspection 4 hours after completion. and additional fire extinguishers are also available on site. The following hot works activities continue to be prohibited because of their higher fire risk. Hot works with an open flame or with bitumen or tar kettles on new construction where fire separation and assemblies are not completed, and hot works with an open flame or with bitumen or tar kettles on existing occupied buildings. We'd like to recognize industry for respecting the measures that were put into place, and we thank them for their patience. This is an evolving situation with a number of factors that need to be considered, including those that affect the health and safety of Calgarians. We encourage Calgarians to continue to be diligent with both water conservation and fire prevention. Please ensure you're attentive while you're cooking and make sure to dispose of smoking materials safely. And thank you again.
Thank you very much, Chief. And thank you, everyone, for everything that you've been doing in these past 5 days. You are absolutely the reason that we continue to have safe and clean drinking water available in our communities. I also understand how hard it is to imagine how this impacts the entire city because it's not something that you can see. So I want you to try to imagine the roads that you travel on being underground. So if you can get that picture into your head, the road network that you use every day is underground. That's basically the magnitude of the pipes that we have under our city. Now I want you to imagine that Deerfoot Trail gets shut down. If that happened, we would probably be in gridlock. That's what's happening with this feeder main going down. It is broken and our water supply is gridlocked. We're going to be all right. We're going to get it up and running. We're in the middle of doing repairs. And your actions and mine will make sure that we get through this as long as we keep cutting our water usage. So thank you for all the efforts that you have put in. And I will just remind you that as we head in to a weekend that has Neighbor Day activities as well as Father's Day, it would be a really good time to get out to the communities of Bowness and Montgomery to do whatever shopping you need to do, to take Dad out for brunch or dinner, and to just engage with the citizens of Bowness and Montgomery on Neighbor Day to see how they're doing. With that, I will turn things over to Sherry to moderate questions from media.
Thank you, Mayor. Any questions?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, Rose from Radio Canada. Does that, what happened last Wednesday, does that make you nervous that, you know, it might happen again? And what does that say about maintenance on all those underground roads if you see the magnitude of it?
I really appreciate the question about whether we are nervous that this could happen again. I will tell you that the water teams and the infrastructure teams at the city have monitoring processes in place. They are regularly looking at the state of our infrastructure. There are a variety of tests that they use and a lot of technology that is deployed to make sure we understand the state of our infrastructure. Now, they can get into a more detailed explanation of how we are monitoring the condition of this feeder main as well as our other infrastructure. But I can tell you that as City Council, we have been asked to invest in maintenance and monitoring of infrastructure, and we have continued to do so. Would you like to give some more detail? Okay. All right.
Thank you, Mayor. Next.
I'm just wondering, is this affecting habitat in the surrounding area?
The question was around, is this impacting habitat and wildlife? I am assuming is part of your question. Our rivers are a little higher now for those of you who are out biking along the river pathways, and those are really highly valued by Calgarians. The ecological needs of animals in our environment, very much our rivers are a big part of that. And what we're talking about in this instance is our potable drinking water and being able to deliver that to Calgarians for health and safety. So we share that source of the rivers. That's where our water comes from that we treat and deliver, but it is two different things. Thank you.
This is not a question for the mayor. This is not a political question. This is a technical question. Because I was asking some councillors and they didn't have the answer, so I'm going to ask somebody here in the room. I just am asking about the damaged pipe, not the pipe system, not
Sure.
your Bears Paw. We're talking about the part that you took out. When was that last inspected by whoever inspects the pipes? When was that pipe last inspected? And so I'm not asking what caused the catastrophe. This is a past event. When in the past was this pipe inspected, and what, if anything, was found in that inspection?
Thank you for the question. The question is around when was this pipe in particular inspected. So I'm going to ask my colleague, Director Bouchard, to speak to that.
Thank you, Nancy. I don't actually have any specific data to share with you today. We were actually in the process of doing an inspection this upcoming winter. That inspection requires us to actually undertake a number of steps before we can actually do the inspection work. The first of those is, as was identified, the installation of air valves to replace some of the old air valves that were in place, to also look at how our system performs under a lower pressure, because every time that you change the pressure within the pipe, then you change the dynamics of the structure. You can think of the water and the pipe as being a structure. Those works were done this last winter in preparation for the inspection this upcoming winter. The technology that we're using in the upcoming winter was not available 5 years ago. So what we're using is the most up-to-date technology to do these inspections.
Can I have a supplementary? I think myself and the mayor spoke about clear, concise explanations, and I agree totally with her. So again, the question that I was asked in Bowness when I was there on Sunday was, when you say you don't have any data to share.
I don't have the answer with me. That's what I'm trying to say. We'd have to get back to you.
The first questions they ask is, when was the last time there was maintenance on the 747? So all I'm asking is, as clear as you could be, you don't have the answer to that.
I do not have the answer to that today.
Any other questions? Yes.
Maybe for Mayor Gondik again. So you talked about major investment. Maybe I'm ahead of myself, but how much do you expect that will cost to repair, and do you think that's a cost that should be shared with provincial, federal? Do you think that should be taken into the municipal budget, or should it be shared, and how?
So I think we need to divide that into two sections. Firstly, for this particular situation that we're in, I know that the teams have put aside budget over time for maintenance and for an emergency such as this. And so we are well taken care of in terms of the budget being able to cover the cost of the repair as we see it. Now, if something different happens, we would absolutely be willing to explore how we fund it. That may be with partner organizations. It may be through some contingency funds. But right now, the team is feeling good that we've got the budget we need to do this repair because we have planned for things like this. The other thing that I will add here is it's always a partnership between the federal, provincial, and municipal governments to deliver on infrastructure for the citizens that we commonly serve. And that's well understood. Over the years, there have been infrastructure programs that have flowed from the other two orders of government to ours. What I can tell you is that we've seen a drying up of those funds over time. And while I do not think it's appropriate to blame anyone in this situation, I will say that I hope all three orders of government can now see how important it is for us to be funding infrastructure properly. And I look forward to having those conversations with my colleagues as we have had over the past years. I think we just need to spotlight it a bit more now.
Thank you, Mayor. See no other questions? Oh, we got one more.
No, sorry.
For CTV, sorry.
CTV.
Sorry.
Just wondering, is there a bit more clarity now on how much of that area is going to need to be repaired after the pipe is complete?
Thank you. The question is, are we clear on the amount of area that needs to be repaired? And so we are proceeding. We do have we're taking the remaining sections out and we will be beginning the repair in that area. Before we do that, though, in the next 2 days, we are continuing to use this opportunity to look further. That's some of that robotic assessment using data so that we can really understand the structure of the entire pipe, and that will inform what we need to do going forward. But we are going to proceed. We've got the pieces out that are damaged and proceed with the repair. And that we anticipate, as I mentioned previously, in the next 2 days, we should be working towards finishing that repair.
So I just theoretically, once the pipe itself is completed, it still could be another, 3 or 4 days following that to repair the roads and everything around.
So certainly, the question is how long to repair the roads in the area. And I know mobility for all of us working in the area is really top of mind. What we're doing today is moving in and bringing the replacement pipe in. So we've kept that road shut down in order to bring that in. It may be happening right now. And so as soon as we are able safely to open some roadways, we will be doing that. And I anticipate that in the next day or two. Top of mind for us is keeping our staff that are working and focusing on that repair safe as well. But at the moment, we're bringing in some equipment. And now that we've got a better idea of what the repair is going to undertake, it allows us to make some of those decisions. I absolutely appreciate that traffic is congested and it's a challenge. So, and then from there, once the repair is complete, there will be topping up that hole, and it's substantial, and we'll have a better sense of timing as well in terms of building the road back. Yep.
Thanks, Nancy. All right, Chief, to close.
Thank you to all Calgarians for your patience and your efforts at continuing to conserve water. The lifting of the boil water advisory in Bowness is an important step forward for us, but there's still lots of work to come. The pipe still needs to be repaired, as we heard from Director Mackay, and we still need your cooperation to make sure that we can continue to conserve water until that repair is completed. Thank you.